So welcome back, everybody. This is Paul Smyers again. I'm the realtor in Southwest Virginia, and I service the Shenandoah Valley, specialize in land and rural property, country living, homesteads, and that sort of thing. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about being a strong buyer. I know there's a lot of people that move out of the country, out from the suburbs and looking to live in the countryside. And even whether it's not in the countryside, even this applies to any purchase you might make. About being a strong buyer. One is, of course, we have the opportunity now to be a very informed buyer because we can find out somewhat of what the competition is doing by looking on Zillow and Realtor.com. And so we need to be educated about what's out there, which we can find through the searches. Another thing we need to know is what we actually really want. And that's sometimes a very soul-searching process because it's a really big thing to buy a big chunk of land or a home, a couple $100,000 or 300 or even more, a big piece of land that you got to deal with, and maybe you got to mow 4 acres or something. So it's a big responsibility, and when you go through the process, you just need to educate yourself and get as informed as you possibly can. That's one of the reasons I have these YouTube videos, to help people understand and get fully informed when they buy and sell land and homes. One way that you can be prepared is to know very clearly how much you can realistically afford. That's called qualifying in this industry. Someone comes and say, hey, I want to buy a house. Well, so qualify. Well, it's a technical term and they use it in real estate business. You got to qualify people. But basically, it's a sensible question and a conversation needs to happen. How much can I really afford now, and how much can I afford for a long period of time, and is there going to be maintenance on this property that I buy, and how much is that going to cost? And what about things that you never expect, like you live in a house for 5 or 6 years, and next thing the furnace goes, and there's like, whoa, well, a lot of people just have to borrow money for that, and it can be thousands of dollars. So educating yourself is to be a strong buyer, not just in the prices and the various 3-bedroom houses that are out there in the market in your area that you're looking, but what makes a really good purchase in value. Things that sometimes you see a house price because everybody else in the neighborhood is around that price or something, and you know it's a fairly active market. So but your particular home has a furnace that was put in 2 years ago will last another 20 years. A buyer needs to know that, and if you're a buyer, you need to know, hey, this house is very similar to the one over there, but this house has a new roof, or this house has a shed, or this house has a garden, or a garage, or some other feature. So that's part of educating yourself about what's out there, but also what you really need, what you really need. Because generally speaking, a lot of people, when they buy a home, they will expand it over time in some way or another. They'll improve it, paint the rooms, expand it. Sometimes they put a whole new addition. Some people have actually put a whole new floor on a house, or built another shed or a garage or something. So over the course of a home life that you live in it, there's a very good chance that you will do something to the property to increase its value or function. So when you first buy the home, you may not need everything that you hope for. You see, like sometimes people think, well, I got to have a home, it's got to have this and this and this and this, and it's got to have this. Okay, well, look at what you can really afford and leave a good margin between what you think you can afford and what might happen. Just leave some margin. So that way, if you don't have any major expenses in your first 5-6 years in the home, you can rest easy. Say, hey, I plan for $1,250 a month on my mortgage payment or for my household expenses, but it's only really been costing me $1,000. So now after a few years, I say, well, you know, maybe I'll just take some of that money that I saved and maybe I will do an upgrade or get my central air or something that you want to do. Take an equity loan because you're not, in other words, you're under the curve, you might say. You're well within your budget and well within your resources, there are people who become house poor. I've known people like that. Long ago, I knew this couple, and they bought a house finally. They were fairly young. I think they were in their 30s, early 30s. They bought a house, and boy, that was it. That's all they could afford. They didn't go anywhere. Go out to dinner. No fun. They just, well, paid the mortgage, but can't go anywhere. No vacations. So you don't want to do that. You want to have some leeway, and you have to know yourself. That's how you be a strong buyer. Go to your bank or whoever the lending institution is and say, well, what can I realistically afford? The interest rates right now, this is 2020, November, is really, really good interest rates. So it's a great time. And if you can, there are banks that are just begging to have customers, really. But they want qualified customers who are going to be consistent in their payments, of course. So again, being a strong buyer, you can go to the bank institution and get a letter. Say, okay, I'm qualified for a loan of $200,000 at 4%, and I got a 90-day window, and then we'll take another look at it. So then you go shopping for 90 days. What you should do is a lot of prep work before you get that document signed so that you're really, really clear, so that if the first day of that day you go out looking for serious, you have that thing in your hand. The first day you get that letter in your hand that says you're qualified for a loan, you start looking and say, you might even find the very first thing. The first day you go looking, you might find what you're looking for. And then you're in a very powerful position because maybe someone else was coming up and they like the house too, but they don't have that document in their hand. And they don't know how much they can afford, but they like the house, but they got to go looking. And you can say, bingo, here's my offer, full price offer or something. Now, when you buy a house, generally speaking, the real estate agent that is listing the house, they're working on behalf of the seller. Their goal, whoever's listed the house, has to protect the interest of the seller. That's the contract they have. So they're going to try to aim for the higher price. When you buy, sometimes you can get what's called a buyer's agent. You can get someone that works for you, that you sign a very simple document and say, look, I'm hiring this guy, this person to represent me. I want him to negotiate on my behalf. I want him to look out for my interests when I buy the house. Ultimately, the sale of the home pays the commission or the fee to both brokers or both agents. But if you have that document that says you're a buyer agent, then that, I would be working for you, so that when I negotiate with the other seller, I'm thinking of your interest and not the seller's interest. There's technical things about what you have to disclose and so on about it. So it's good to have someone on your side, especially if you're from out of town and you don't have a chance to go look at stuff and deal with things personally. So a strong buyer knows what they want, knows what they can afford, has a bank letter in their hand, qualifying. Now, sellers love down payments. If you go up into a lending institution and say, I got 20% down or 25% down, they'll go, okay, we'll talk to you. Because a lot of people say, can you do a 3% down? So if you walk in with 25% down, that makes a pretty fast deal for a lot of transactions. So sometimes you might be able to get yourself a little bit of cash together and up the ante. If you say to a seller, say, look, I really love this house. I got my qualifying letter right here in my hand. I got a $10,000, I got a 25% down payment, and we're going to close in 30 days. Be decisive about what you're doing. Say, I want to do this, and boom, and it gets the attention of the people involved. The seller doesn't care who they sell their house to. So the first person that comes up with something that says, hey, I'm ready to go with this, let's do it. So be a strong buyer. Have a lot of confidence. Now, again, part of the way to be a confident buyer is to have some understanding of the financial aspects of real estate. If you buy a home and you want to live in it for a long time, you buy intelligently, you get a decent deal, fair market deal on a piece of property in decent condition, and you take care of the property. After some years, for the most part, in most markets in this country, your house is going to have significantly extra value, especially if the whole neighborhood starts to improve. I have a family member who bought a house years ago, and then over the years, now it's an in-demand neighborhood. But she's really happy there. She's got a really solid house, so she's she was afraid when she first signed that loan. There's a lot of money. But now she's looking back, so now she's got some serious equity in the house, and it's a pleasure to live in. So she's still enjoying the house and will for a long time, and hand it down to her daughter. So think about the financial aspects of it when you sign that document and say, I'm a strong buyer. I'm not afraid to buy this. I'm not afraid to sign my name here, because I know that I'm buying something really solid that I'm going to value for a long, long time. Or if you're going to buy and sell and flip or something, you still have an understanding of what you're doing financially. There are people who are savvy about buying homes, and they'll buy a home that's decrepit, and they'll say, look, my family can make this, I'll keep my family busy for a whole year fixing up this house, and when we sell it, we'll make a $50,000 profit, plus all the labor that we did. So there are people who buy houses very, very confidently, because they have a good, solid understanding as a strong buyer. I'm doing this intelligently. I'm going to make money on this property, or I'm going to really enjoy this property for a long, long time, and I don't mind spending my money every month for it. So I want to close this video off a bit. It's almost getting to be nearly 12 minutes. Thanks again for listening. I try to make these videos as short as possible to make them easy to digest. Again, think about being a strong buyer. Be a smart buyer, an educated buyer, confident buyer, a financial, intelligent decision with the money, and then you'll enjoy the whole real estate transaction, even though it might be kind of messy at times. So thanks again for listening, and I appreciate the feedback. Please like and share, and if you have any comments, please leave them here. And questions, if you'd like me to help you list your house or help you with buying or any kind of consulting issue, please feel free to contact me. The phone number and the email is on the bottom here of this video. So thanks again.